Who's not watching? My name's Emilio. That's my amigo Christian. We roll characters and talk about role playing games and do other stuff that's fun.
Yeah,
And
that's us.
that's what we're gonna do right now. Uh, but before we jump into all of that, Christian, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna introduce myself.
That's right.
Uh, okay, yeah.
Who the
My
heck are you?
name's Christian, and I'm a psychologist who lives in Montana, and I learned how to play D&D from this guy over here, and about a year and a half ago at this point, and then started DMing probably, well, we know just about a year ago because it was the anniversary of the game that you, Emilio, play in with some of our other friends and loved ones.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's me. We're yeah, yeah. I guess we're doing that's the intro.
Woohoo. Yeah. Well, my name's Emilio. I also run some D&D games. Been doing it for a few years. Got Christian roped into it about a year ago. I was running a whole bunch of
There's
games for a while, but now I've pulled back a little bit, and I'm just doing running one game, but I'm playing in a couple, and I'm starting some new streaming stuff and all that. And Christian and I have a show where we roll characters on YouTube, and we basically just roll random prompts and then figure out kind of what sort of backstory we want to come up with, and we have a lot of fun, and we goof around, and we have guests on the show and things like that. So if you ever want to check that out, it is at Let's Roll Character. It's at bit.ly/Let's Roll Characters. Did you say .ly or .ly?
I think it's .ly because it's bit.ly.
Bitly, right? Yeah.
So bit.ly seems appropriate to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so what are we talking about today, Christian?
Yeah, well, I think we should talk about why we're doing this.
Let's do that. Why are we doing
Um,
this?
yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of like I don't know if I should reveal the real reason why I think I brought this up. Maybe you brought it up before, but then I sort of rehashed it,
Uh
which
huh.
led to us doing this. Um, because it really sort of talks about getting the wrong messages from something. So I, I mean, should I just talk about that podcast and all the things?
Uh,
Or does that make us look bad?
yeah, probably. Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, go ahead. Say something. I
I was
mean,
gonna talk about it.
yeah, why not?
I mean, we're genuine people.
We are people.
We we are definitely human people who grew up on the human planet known as Earth.
Yes.
So I was listening to the New York Times podcast Rabbit Hole, which is terrifying. It's basically about how, the dystopian future is now, and it's the result of algorithms that are, developed by corporations, guiding us toward ever more extreme thought and behavior. And is that a fair synopsis of that?
Yeah, yeah. The algorithm was centrally featured.
Yeah, and it focuses on YouTube in particular. And we're YouTubers. I mean, renowned
Well
YouTubers,
known
I want to say.
in all
Well-known
circles.
YouTubers. Yep. And so, like I said, it's terrifying. It's really, it doesn't, bode well for us as humans, what that series kind of describes. But also, I am always looking for silver linings, Emilio.
Uh huh.
And one of the things I did observe about that is that there are some ways in which people consume YouTube that we could potentially just, be a part of. And that is the sort of streaming process, which is just like you and me being me and you, just like, putting that out there, talking about what we talk about, and people seem to kind of resonate with that because it's just, us being people. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm into that, and I think that it's interesting. I think we're interesting is, I guess, what I wanted to say. And why not give the people the content that they crave,
That they
which is
want.
just us. Yeah, it's just us being out
Just
there being us.
just a
So
couple of talking heads
yeah,
talking about.
that's
Yeah. Well, and
hey,
it,
you ladies and gents out there in Radio Land.
we're gonna do the voices. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Um,
you're better at that voice.
well, I was thinking we should have a segment on our new talk show where we just do voices.
That's actually that's a fun
Be a
idea.
fun mini game to play. Like,
Yeah.
let's roll
Yeah, I
accents.
mean, yeah, we're terrible at it. I mean, I'm terrible at
I'm
it.
not
You
great
have
either.
some good
I got a
ones.
couple.
I felt re- I felt pretty good about the patrician accent that I did yesterday for our game that I've DM'd.
Patrician?
Patrician. That's this kind of
Uh.
accent when you're speaking like somebody who names their children Muffy and marries people named Tiffany,
Mm-hmm.
which I
Mm-hmm.
did.
Mm-hmm. It's
Uh,
very fitting for you.
Patition. So I felt good about the patrician accent. That's probably the accent I have felt most good about in my DMing career, actually.
Yeah, it was good. It was so good that both me and Tiffany started doing it. It's kind of
I know.
unconsciously. Like,
It was pretty great. Tiffany later asked me, she was like, "Is that weird that I did that?" I was like, "No, it's great."
it was infectious. Couldn't help it.
Okay, that's good. Good sign.
Um, yeah, I mean, okay,
Yeah,
so
is that why we're doing this? Is that
well,
why we're doing this? Do you
yeah,
have
I
more
was.
to add to that?
We're doing this so we can do accents on the internet, pretty much. It's just an
That was the
excuse to.
reason.
No, I think. I mean, yeah, I think that's right, and I think like, you know, people don't know this, but like Christian and I pretty much meet every week around this time to talk about role playing games and ideas that we have and characters, or we use this time to actually roll characters and do our show. So we were like, well, we're already connecting at this time. Why not just like put it out
Mhm.
there? And just kind of see what happens and really not like um not try to be too scripted or production or anything like that, just like have fun and chat, which
Right.
I think we both
Right.
had some reticence about maybe, but it's going to be a fun experiment.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be what it's gonna be, and for all of our loyal viewers out there, like it's like, maybe we're gonna do this, maybe we're not gonna do this. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like just the world today is open to the idea of people just turning on the camera and sharing their lives, and so why not?
That's
Um,
true, and we're like I said, we're interesting looking.
yes. Uh, One thing that we were going to talk about is the
Yes,
name for this thing that we're doing. Um,
yes, we have a loose topics list.
should we jump into some of that stuff? I think you should read the
I
list of
think.
names that you and Tiffany came up with.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so well, I'll just go through the list here of our back and forth. Is that okay?
Do it.
Okay, so the first one, which was basically yours, Sundays with Amelia and Christian, which is it is exactly what this is.
It's clear,
So
to the
there's
point.
that. Yeah, it's who we are and what we're doing. Um, and then then variations on a theme, RPG talk with Emilio and Christian. Um, you had a really good one. Let's talk characters, which hey, it's like the name of the show.
Hey, it's the thing that we do.
It's the thing. Um, and then there are a few really. Tiffany was throwing a bunch out here for the Tiffany's my wife, everybody. So talk and roll, which is cute. Keep It Rolling, sort of like a film reference, I guess. Um, Are You There, God? It's me, Christian, and also Emilio.
By far my favorite one. So that was really good.
Dungeons and Discussion. Although I think we were trying to not just be so D&D centric.
Right.
But there were some other ones that were along those lines, like DM and Dish, because you and me were always dishing.
Dish. We do dish.
Dungeons and dishing. There were a lot of dishing and dragons. I mean, we had a lot. Once we hit dish, we were just like bam,
That's
bam,
it.
bam, bam. Then let's see, and then you were really in this conversation. You were really defending what a disher you are. So that was kind of like important. It was important to you.
Want everyone to know that about me.
Yeah. And then we had and then I had some gabbing ones. TTRP gabbing. RP gabbing. I love it. Because it's bad. Okay. Then you had Talk Talk RPG. Talk Talk. Talk Talk RPG sounds like something that is it, like maybe somebody who doesn't speak English has decided that the name of our show is Talk Talk RPG.
Yeah. Did you
Let's
catch the
see
latest
here.
episode of Talk Talk RPG? It was so good. They were brilliant characters.
Yeah. Or maybe they weren't. I don't know. That to be determined. Unnamed talk show. Then we had Table Talk, but then I actually looked that up and somebody already has Table Talk.
Yeah, it's gotta be a thing.
Yeah. But then metagaming with Emilio and Christian, I kind of like that. It's a little heady, but
It's a little meta.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, when you do that, you are giving that marker that like I am a smart person, or I'm attempting to demonstrate to you that I'm a smart person because I use words like meta, which is like the whole like hipster sort of like, mentality type thing, which like is, more or less lame, but whatever. I mean, so that was an option. And I think those are the main ones. I'll tell you, Emilio, I like Let's Talk characters the best, but did anybody stand out to you? Any of those stand out to you?
I think I like Let's Talk characters. Just it fits with the naming thing. Although,
yeah,
my favorite is one that you didn't mention.
Oh,
but is actually the current title of our stream. Oi, good on you, mate. And that's just our show.
LRC presents a cultural appropriation. But it's not so bad because, it's Australia. Or maybe it's New Zealand. I don't think they talk like that in New Zealand, though.
Good on you could be Good on you, mate could be the British.
Could be just English.
Yeah.
Yeah, could just be British people. That's right. I did. I don't know how I could have had such an oversight there.
Yeah, come on. It's literally the name of the show.
Did I also say unnamed talk show?
Unnamed talk show, yeah. I don't know. That's show? Like, it's a little too like working title. Isn't there already there's like a production company named Working Title, right? Like a film company.
Oh yeah, there is. It's like I guess I mean,
like when they did it, I was like, oh, that's super clever, but no one else can ever use a something like that, right? Like.
It also feels sort of like almost like Monty Python-y, where it's like, I don't know. I'm not going to try to do an English accent unless it's like, "Oi, governor, this is hilarious."
Can you do? Can you do a traditional female character from Monty Python? Because those are the best.
Oh yeah. Oi, governor. This is a traditional female character. I don't know.
Yeah,
Freshen your drink, governor.
Yeah. What are you doing around here, you? You lot get from around us. Yeah, we're not making any friends today.
That's right. I'm looking at the Twitch, and we got 2 viewers. Do you know who those viewers are?
I think I might.
It's me and you, baby.
That's right. Oh, I just realized my video overlay is bad. Okay, there we go. Fixed it.
Hi. Oh yeah, you have that weird.
I can do it.
I
I
just
can.
I just said just said hi to you in the chat room.
Well,
I
this
don't know
show's
why I
off to a
find that
great
so
start.
funny.
We've got another 40 minutes to go, so let's see what else we can talk about.
I think this is great because like I'm just gonna like also because when I message you in the chat room, it's I'm messaging you at a delay. Like or the
Yes.
video's at a delay, but the chat is at present. And
Oh,
so in a way, it's like we're time traveling here,
yeah.
basically.
You could tell me something in the chat that hasn't happened
Yeah.
yet.
Okay, check this out. Okay.
Oh God.
Um, I am going to predict that you are going to no, I'm going to predict that you're going to drink water. Drink water. Oh, damn it, I was too slow.
So close.
Oh God. Well, anyway,
Oh, that was good fun. You
yeah.
know, it's like being back in high school. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Christian and I went to well, we've known each other since elementary school.
It's true since fifth grade.
Since yeah, we went to elementary,
Although
high
of course
school.
I'd heard about you before
The
then. Like there's
legend,
a lot of talk about that Emilio
the legend of
guy.
Emilio.
Like wow. And then me Christian got to be in a classroom with him. I was like that's the guy.
It was like you walked into Michael Mitchell's classroom on the third floor, day one, September 3rd, and there's just this glow from the desk on the far left of the room where I sat. Uh,
I don't know if I should say anything about this, but I have like unsavory gossip dirt on that teacher.
oh yeah, you probably shouldn't say anything. We should
Okay,
do
all
that
right.
offline.
I'm not. I'll tell you later. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like yee.
Um,
Anyway,
well,
it's like, we really are gonna dish.
apparently. So what else is on our
Yeah.
list today? Was there anything
Oh
else?
yeah. Oh,
So
well,
let's call it. Let's talk
I mean, we
characters
just
for now. Unless someone in our
okay.
audience, I'm
Yeah.
gonna like
Okay.
look into the camera. Hey, audience,
Unless you have an
we
idea.
need your help coming up with a name. So
Uh-huh.
one of the two of you watching this right now, you need
I
to
mean, it's
send in
just
your
me and you.
names.
It's just me and you watching.
Put them in the comments.
Uh,
I mean,
okay.
it feels like we're like I don't know, like we're just like
What?
doing like a drunken TV show or something. But
I know. Maybe we should be.
maybe I think that's actually
I'm.
against Twitch rules.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's no like alcohol or I think it's like no alcohol or drug use or sex stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess then we don't really have anything to talk about.
Show's over, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Let's talk characters. Goodbye.
Drugs and sex stuff only.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's talk characters. That's what we're going for right now.
Let's do that.
Okay, cool. Let's talk characters. But we're not talking characters. It's just that's the name of the show. We could be
No.
talking any number of things. No, only characters.
Only characters.
Yeah.
You don't call a show something and then not. No, yeah, it's fine. We'll figure things out. I think like
Yeah.
what I've been realizing from doing the show, Christian, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like have some big holy shit, some big.
Somebody's Skyping you?
No, it was my mom was calling me. Hi, mom.
Oh, yeah. Ignore.
Not trying to have some big like revelation about it, but what I think has been really interesting about doing Let's Roll Characters is that it's made me think a lot about like storytelling in general and kind of not just the backstory of a person, but of a place or a society or how all these kind of things are connected and how people's personal experiences kind of connect with their bigger story. And I find myself thinking about that in a lot of other kind of aspects of my life now. It's like it's just sort of seeing more of those connections, and I think that's I think that's something that I was interested in before, and that's kind of what drew me to this concept of like character creation in general. And like when I started playing D&D, rolling characters was and probably still is one of the most fun things about it. Is like coming up with these stories,
Mm-hmm.
and like going in kind of deep and thinking about like, well, what makes this person think that way or inspire them to be that way, or what happened in their life to lead to this. And I remember, so I took a bunch of like creative writing and journalism classes when I was in college, and I remember like a few assignments where we had to like, there was one assignment in particular where we had to go to a public place like a train station or something like that and just like stare at another person and then like
Mm.
write what we think their story is, or like
Whoa.
write like a 4-page story about their life. And I
Wait, when did you do that?
this was like college. It was like 2002 probably.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I remember I wrote this story about this woman, and like I made up all this stuff about how she was a nurse and like she immigrated to this
Mm.
country and all this crap. None of
Mm.
which might have been true, but but I just sort of like, I don't know. It's like reinforcing all these like the ways that sort of people's stories and people's experiences kind of play into our lives all the time.
Mm.
And so, with that in mind, my
Yes.
point
So
being
tell me more.
that
Yeah.
uh, let's talk characters as an umbrella concept could work for a lot of
Mm.
the things that we talk about. The idea that
Mm.
characters and stories are behind a lot of the other things that might come up in our conversations.
Well, I suppose that's true, right? In a very sort of like fundamental way when we're talking about like, or when we're interacting with people or developing things that are proxies for people, like it is about sort of, those interactions of different stories, right? And
Hmm.
so I think that's, I mean, yeah, that seems legit.
It's one way to think about it, I think. Also, I'm just
Mm.
trying to stretch to make it, make sense for our our story, our show.
Yeah, right, which like, that's fine. I'm sort of like, like it could be tied to things or it could be not
Or
tied to
not.
things. I feel like maybe you're gonna be our what do they call that? Like on long running like TV shows, they'll have somebody who's the sort of person who keeps track of whether the story is remaining consistent over the course of the multiple sort of episodes and seasons. It's like a consistency sort of like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
editor or something. I don't know if that's a
yeah.
term, but like
Like a
you're gonna,
continuity thing.
yeah, yeah, maybe something like that.
I don't know if I'll be good at that, but uh,
Well, you're gunning for the
it's
role.
my job now.
You're gunning
Continuity
for it.
czar.
Yeah. Um, okay. Well, I mean, that sort of brings us to a second topic that I had, which is like, what is this show?
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I think is a good question. Certainly, I've been thinking about it as just being a forum for us to openly sort of chat about what it is that we're doing or thinking about relative to role-playing game stuff, including, you know, that secret project that we have. um, or like, I don't know, we could talk about last night's game, or
Yeah.
we could talk about like, mechanics in I mean, we're most familiar with D&D, right? But we could talk
Mm-hmm.
about mechanics in role-playing games that we like or don't like or that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Those are some ideas, but they're mostly I'm just sort of like, hey, let's get on and chat.
Yeah. Yeah. I think all that stuff would be interesting to talk about. I think um, some of the questions about like representation in role playing games might be
Mm,
interesting to get into. Um,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Talking about some of the non D&D RPGs that are out there, um, or D&D based stuff that is trying to have maybe a more kind of progressive bent to it, or is
Mm-hmm.
trying to address or correct issues with D&D. Could be interesting stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, certainly on Let's Roll Characters, we've had folks on that are sort of, part of that
Yeah.
that sphere. And I do, you know, I mean, I want I want all the things I do, including role-playing games, to have that accounted for, in a thoughtful way. Have
Yeah.
like varying viewpoints and representation and inclusion sort of like accounted for. Um, and
Yeah.
you know, not just in like a tokenistic type way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting discussion happening about these topics just out in the world these days. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, we certainly have our opinions on that stuff. It'd be cool to have maybe like some people on with us on these, these Sundays or whenever we do this to talk about that stuff too. It would also
Mm-hmm.
be fun to just like roll some characters from time to time or like come up with campaign ideas and stuff like that too. So this also could be like a little bit of brainstorming
Mm-hmm.
and prep stuff and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, DM support group. That's what we should
Oh.
call this. I'm I'm appealing to Christian's uh, profession.
Yeah. I mean, I don't dislike that.
Something like that might be an interesting angle.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like I could see something with it. Although then it's sort of, I just find myself thinking like, oh man, then we're gonna have to like have a different overlay here. Not that I'm the one making the overlay. It's like we're have a different overlay here,
I
and then we're gonna have to figure out the cell phone video piece again.
I
Oh my
know, I
God.
know, I know. Well, we could. The overlay is not too complicated, although we did
No, the
spend.
cell phone thing is the thing that's like, you know, everybody hates that. All of our guests hate
I
that, I
know,
think.
I know. Well, I mean, whatever. It's led to good quality stuff,
That's true.
and yeah, for the most part, you know, they might have been a little miffed at first, I think, but hey,
Right.
any of our former guests, let us know. What did you think of us forcing you to film yourself with a different camera?
Right. They loved it.
And how was the
They thought it
extra
was the
30
best.
minutes of prep that we made you go through before we started
Oh my
recording?
God. Oh man.
But I
Oh
like that.
yeah.
I appreciate that we did that. And if it was just me, Christian, I wouldn't have pushed for that. I would have just been like, "Oh, yeah, it's not
Mm,
working. Just do it, whatever." And then I would have ended up with a mess and not
mm,
have known how to really clean it up because everything would have been in
mm.
different shapes and sizes and formats, and then I would have just been like, well, screw it. I'm just not gonna make this show anymore. Um,
Oh no.
so so I think this actually I always shut up when it was time to like push the guests to have the right audio and video equipment.
It's true. I was the one who was just like, no, 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 this is the
It's
thing.
fine.
Here's the picture of the setup, and I know it's annoying. It's just better, I promise.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah. Although it's a shame we have two episodes that are being hung up because of like technical issues around that, which is like kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I know. Two episodes that I'm really interested in too.
Three episodes actually, if you count the interview as one of the
Yeah,
episodes.
right. Exactly. Well,
That's too bad.
it is too bad. And if anybody out there knows a easy way to do this, which I don't think there's a better one than what we're doing, but any technical prowess, any ideas, let us know.
Yeah.
And by the way, Christian, I'm just gonna keep throwing things out to the not an existent audience that we have because I think that's what you're supposed to do on these
All
things,
right.
right?
Yeah. Sure.
Like the streamers that I watch, they always are like, "Oh yeah, let me know what you think in the comments," or "Hey, type this in chat
Uh-huh.
to." All right, I'm gonna be vulnerable for a second and reveal my ignorance. What does F in chat mean? Do you know this?
F, the letter F
Yeah.
in chat.
Yeah, F in chat is a thing that streamers say a lot. They'll be like, "All right, everyone, F in chat if you want this or something," or like, uh,
What? I have no idea.
and
I
then
don't
this
know what
just
that means.
happens.
are you looking that up? F in chat
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
meaning
Urban Dictionary. F in chat
means
means to pay your
pay your
respect.
yeah. Why does it mean that?
I don't know.
Oh, it's a Call of Duty meme.
F on the keyboard or X on the controller to fallen soldiers. Huh.
Huh.
All memes are rooted in something weird. We need to learn these things, Christian.
Oh, because we're part of meme culture now?
We have to be able to get bits and um,
Oh, bits.
emojis. We have to have custom emojis that people can pay for,
Custom emojis.
and then people buy them, and then they give us the money.
I think that we should also have some collectible mugs, maybe, and t-shirts.
You know what's big right now?
What's
Uh,
what's big right now?
plushies.
Plushies.
Yeah, like
Big again, you mean?
yeah, right. Again, sure.
Huh.
Like you can get a plushie of your favorite streamer or whatever their character is.
Really?
Yeah, I think
Well,
some
that'll be the dream, I guess.
a Christian plushie. I think we can make that happen.
I mean, I I think I'm concerned about, what would happen to that plushie out in the world.
What's your where do you land on like sort of voodoo doll pain infliction?
Oh, I mean, 100% believe. I couldn't even say it. I couldn't even say it straight. I couldn't even fake it.
All right. So what else are we
Where
doing
where do
here?
you Oh yeah.
Um,
Okay.
you know,
I mean, I think let's talk about some I mean, I don't know. We could talk about some mechanic stuff. We could talk about you know, I was thinking about this, like when we're talking about something, I'd like to say, not just have it be something that we want to gripe about. And so if we are going to have a gripe, then there should also be sort of like grateful with it too, or something like that,
okay.
so that we're not just like going like all negative on something. Um,
Yeah, I like the idea of trying to be what's it called? Like generative, like coming up with something.
oh, yeah, okay, that's nice too. I mean, I think a gripe and a grateful isn't necessarily generative,
Mm.
but like at least it's not all sort of, you know, negative,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh yeah, we used to call it it's a little bit different, but we used to have a thing called plus delta. So
What's
a
that?
plus is a positive thing. So we used to do this. It was when I ran this youth program. The
Oh,
to do debriefs with the kids, the staff would say, we're going to do a plus delta. So they'd make a chart, and a plus is something positive that happened today, and a delta is something that you would change.
okay, okay. Um, well, what should we do that with?
You've got some opinions about things. Why don't you share one of those
Okay, I will share an opinion.
about a thing?
Um, so yeah, about a thing. So I don't love combat mechanics in D&D, as you know.
Yeah.
And I think that so it was I had an interesting experience in a D&D game that I was playing. And when combat started to come up, there was this kind of like, okay, I'm attacking with this weapon, and then I roll a 15. Okay, that hits. And then I roll a 5. Okay, 5 damage, and that's my attack, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that like this is a gripe that like a lot of people have, right? It's not like unique or anything like that. Oh, hey, by the way,
Oh
my
yeah.
video is like,
What
yeah.
the?
Um but so I mean, the fact of the matter is that like that's not super incentivized. Like doing that type of sort of attack is that's incentivized in D&D
Yeah.
because the sort of like attack roll and the damage roll are, I feel like they're they're abstract, right? And so they don't lend themselves to being connected to an action in an interesting way. Like especially like the attack roll doesn't it doesn't feel like it's attached to the actual action that is being sort of like enacted,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
It's just like, does this hit? And so, so I will say the thing I like about all the combat mechanics, right, is that it gives you a formula that's easy to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a system. It's like, okay, here's how it works. You do this one thing to see if it works, and then you do this other thing to see what the results are. And so that has a nice logical sort of functionality, but it doesn't feel tied to the actual action itself. Thoughts on that before we talk about sort of like ideas here?
Yeah. I mean, I've said this to you before that I think in my ideal world, like
Mm,
you would always be describing your action in some way, and then that would potentially have an impact on the
mm-hmm,
role, right?
mm-hmm.
And I think that I think 5e could be run that way. It's just that a lot of people don't, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily built in or innate, so that it does depend kind of on the DM.
Yeah, I don't feel like I think like it's not incentivized to the degree that it's like, oh, this is automatically how everybody's going to do it.
Yeah, it reminds me of the discussion about um, charisma roles and like sort of
Mm,
talking people into things. And like
mm,
there's I guess a bit of a debate about this of um, whether you should have to make the actual speech or say the actual words that convince somebody of something, or if you should just get to roll a die, because if
right,
the die is high
right.
enough, then the words are there, right? Like whether
Doesn't matter what you said.
what you said, yeah.
Mm,
Uh, and the argument for this is that like, well, when you roll a strength check, you don't actually have to lift up a heavy rock in like real life. It's just you're simulating it with the roll. Um, and so then what some people have said as a way to deal with this is so do the same thing with a charisma check is um, have them roll the check first and then based on that
right,
result
right.
describe what happens. But I actually would rather go kind of the other direction with all of this,
Mm,
and I want you to make that speech, and I want you to lift up that rock, and I want you to describe how you lift up that rock, and like what it
mm,
feels like, and I want you to describe how you attack that, that zombie, um, and then I want to reward you if your description is awesome,
mm,
and if your
mm-hmm,
speech is amazing and convincing,
mm-hmm.
then I want to reward you for that, and if you're not of and the debate the argument is that like, well, if you're not the kind of person who is good at making speeches or being convincing or talking, then it's harder for you to play that type of character. And so you could,
Right.
balance that a little bit, I think, but also I think you could play the type of character that reflects your personality to an extent also, right? And I think those that's one of the pieces of advice that someone gave me when I first started playing was like, especially in the beginning, make your characters reflect yourself, because you're going to naturally be that way,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the like first step in role playing. And ultimately,
Right.
all of this to say, I want to see more role playing. The thing I love about D&D is the role playing.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Right.
I could go like yesterday's session with you, Christian. We didn't have a single combat. We didn't roll initiative once, I don't think. Um, and it was
Nope.
still a lot of fun, and we had to solve problems, and there was conflict and tension, um, but combat could be done in a similar way where it's descriptive and
Mm.
and I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, and what I found myself thinking about as you were sharing that is sort of also yesterday and this was a game that I was DMing, yesterday, like, um, I didn't make you guys do a lot of like persuasion or deception or
Mm-hmm.
intimidation checks. There were a few in there, right? But like there were a number of sort of interactions that you guys were having with NPCs where I wasn't doing that. And there is this part of it, I think, that when you're a DM, like you have the leeway to internally be deciding that this is hitting or not hitting,
Right.
right? Like do the NPCs who are interacting with these PCs like feel like this is working or not?
Right.
And like I think you have maybe as you're saying it's sort of like a balance. It's like, most I don't know, maybe most of the time you're depending on roles, or most of the time you're depending on just sort of an internal sort of processing that you as the DM is doing, or maybe you're working on the balance between those two. But like I think you're allowed to do that as the person facilitating the game, so long as your PCs aren't revolting,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I think that's right. I think you can have a discussion with your group about that. And I'm in one group that just wants to cut their way through everything that they find. They never talk. I like try to get them to talk about stuff that doesn't happen. It's fine. That's the type of group they are, and so I just structure my campaign around that. Whereas like with with your campaign, it's like we definitely are
yeah,
like really invested in these characters, and it's pretty deep backstories, and
yeah,
like it's all
yeah.
connected to what's happening in the world. So it's like that's the kind of group that we are. I think that's the kind of game that we want.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so with that in
Mm.
mind, like the kind of uh, what is the kind of what would you like to see if you were kind of rethinking
Right.
combat?
Yeah. So everything else in D&D, every other role, every other check that you're doing in D&D outside of combat does feel like it's connected to the actual interaction that the PC is having with an NPC. So if it's an intimidation check or a persuasion check or not, that sort of thing. Like I feel like, or if it's a non-combat thing, like if you're trying to climb a wall or something, or do a backflip, like
Mm-hmm.
there's an acrobatics check or an athletics check or all these sorts of things, right? Those all are directly related to the action itself. And so it I think what that forces the PC to do is to be thinking in terms of a check that makes sense relative to the action.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So, in combat, I think it would be nice for the checks to make sense relative to the attack action.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the things that I always like to like think about, and this, is like I want to be able to use, like, for instance, an intimidation check as part of an attack roll, or as the attack roll,
Mm-hmm.
or a deception check or something like that. And it's like, so deception check during an attack is like you point the other direction and you say, oh, look out for that person behind you who's coming to get you. And then you roll a deception check, and if that one succeeds, then they turn around, and then you get to stab them, backstab, backstab, backstab. um, and like I think that is more interesting, because if you have only those types of checks to rely on and not just this, you know, attack roll, then I think it forces the PCs to get creative. And so it's like, you look at all these uh, abilities. Which one? Like intimidation is an ability, right? Or is it a
A
skill?
skill. Yeah, proficiency.
Skill. Yeah. You look at all these skills and you say, okay, here's what I have to choose from in order to make a successful attack roll here.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I want to use a history check to make my attack roll because I have or maybe a medicine check as an example. I'm using a medicine check because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I know just the right place to like, attack this person in order to make them bleed, And so because I have some training in medicine or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I make that roll, and if that's a successful roll, then it actually hits.
Yeah.
Which, I think that feels like a stretch, but if you're a PC in those sort of situations, maybe you start getting creative
Yeah.
and thoughtful and interested in how that kind of mechanic might play out. I don't know. That's what do you think?
Yeah. I think that would be really interesting to experiment with,
Mm.
and take away the. Well, I think so. I wonder about a couple things. So I wonder if there would be a version of this where you would still have the option to do just a traditional attack roll, if you're not a character who is sneaky or clever, or if you're just a big
Mm-hmm.
brute, right? You can still just hit somebody with
Right.
a hammer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Which could
think
be an athletics check.
right, exactly. You still have those skills. You
Yeah.
can still make a check,
Mm-hmm.
and it still might encourage you to describe that action a little better. Although I feel like that should be built in regardless. You should be describing your action. People don't. They never
I know,
describe.
but it's so weird though. People don't do that. Like I didn't know that people didn't do that until I started playing with folks who are not you or trained by you.
I do often. My go-to phrase is, "And what does that look like?"
Right, which is like a great question.
Um, yeah. So I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if that would encourage people to, or or maybe it's not for the people that want to. Because I think there's a segment, and probably a fairly large segment of D&D players uh, who want to max out their character. Their attacks and their spells are based on like highest impact or kind of being efficient with their action economy, and that's fun because it's sort of gaming the system, and they like kind of being able to outsmart
Yeah.
the game or the DM in that way.
Which is a metagaming thing,
It's
right?
totally, yeah, and it's and
Yeah.
it's it's just it's
Which people have, I mean, that's a whole topic.
yeah. Write that down. Do we have a whiteboard or
Yeah, I
something?
know, right? Yeah, exactly. What does that
It
dinosaur
says,
say?
"Dad, you are dynamite."
Oh, that's so adorable. Oh,
you know,
that's great. I
my wife
love it.
found this in a box somewhere. It's from when he was in like preschool.
Oh.
Um,
Anyway, sorry.
but yeah, so
There's some people who like to make these builds, which I understand, and
yeah,
that's a very video game RPG thing to do
exactly,
as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then those people are gonna want that, and that's fine. And like, but then I think there are plenty of people that I think what might have been a challenge in the past is people would describe their combat actions, because I have watched like streaming games where people are very engaged role players and they're pretty experienced, and they describe
Hmm.
every action, and every time they do an attack they describe it, and at times it actually felt like those descriptions were becoming really like long-winded and repetitive,
Hmm.
and didn't they, even though it was a cool description, it had no impact on then the attack roll, right? Because like I described this
Which is
amazing.
like,
Yeah, it's like, and then why
yeah,
bother, right? And
what
then
a
it.
waste. Right. That's what I'm talking about, how it's not incentivized,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Because you do it, yeah, you do it. I remember the first stream I ever watched. This woman was playing a warlock whose grandmother was her patron, and so her grandmother's spirit
Cool.
would arrive and imbue her with power when she needed to cast a spell. It was really cool. It was
Cool.
so cool, and I didn't get it
Yeah.
because I didn't. This was before I knew anything about D&D really. So like, I was just like, "What is
Yeah.
she talking about? Why does she keep describing this grandma?" And like, and I was like, "Come on, just let's keep it moving here." I'm tired of hearing about your grandma. But I realized later, like, if those descriptions had meant something, and then the mechanics, if it had meant that she got a better attack or it changed the outcome in some way, then it would have been worth it. But I mean, she was just doing it to be a
Right.
good player. But not
Hmm.
everyone's gonna take that, go that extra step.
Yeah, I think that's like a sad story. It's
Yep.
like I feel like that is a situation that really needs to be incentivized and then reinforced or rewarded, that is. And
Yeah.
um I think, I mean, I feel like it could be done with a few tweaks. Like, also, I think one thing that's interesting to consider is stacking bonuses.
Mm.
So, like, one of the things about attack rolls in D&D right now is that, as you level up and as you grow your character, that sort of thing, like your attack roll bonus will increase due to a variety of factors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your abilities, your skills can increase with sort of bonuses as well as you progress, but not it doesn't happen in the same sort of way and not as sort of bigly or whatever.
Oh no.
But yeah, I know. But the thing that you could develop is a system that allows you to stack the bonuses that you get if you use multiple skills checks.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're, doing something where you're saying like I do a backflip off the wall and then you know, um I give the blob like a really dirty look and I say like I'm gonna eat your babies,
Oh.
and then I stab down, right? And so that's like an acrobatics check, and so you get that bonus, and then it's an intimidation check, and so you get that bonus stacked on top of it. And so then maybe instead of just like having a +2 bonus, you're having a +3 or +4 bonus to the attack roll.
Yeah.
And then like the stacking of those things gets you in a headspace to be like thinking creatively about all of the sort of checks that are at your disposal.
Mm. Ooh, or what if you could only use what if you only had a limited number of times you could use each skill?
Oh, that's interesting. Oh boy,
So
that's brutal,
you have like
Emilio. That's draconian.
I think I like it. So you have four, I don't know, four regular attacks, and but
Yeah,
when you those run out, you've got to use your intimidation attack or you have three of those, and you've got two,
yeah.
and those numbers maybe are based on like what the number is actually the uh whatever your proficiency in that level is or something, or I mean you'd have to crunch it, um but that way it's well, I don't know. It's a bit of a bridge, I guess, right? Because for people that aren't used to doing this, they'd be like, "Well, I ran out of my regular attacks.
Right.
I better come up with something," and like
Yeah.
sort of forces
I
them.
think, or then they're just like, I have to make the regular easy attacks super, super powerful
Uh,
before I have to be creative or something like that.
yeah,
Um,
you only get
I don't
one of
know.
those.
I think I think you do need some sort of limitation. Like when I'm thinking about the stacking thing,
Hmm.
I think you should only be able to stack so many sort of
Yeah,
skill bonuses there. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a way to force people into being more thoughtful and creative with combat.
hmm,
Um, and I'd certainly like to experiment with it and see, um, you know, what comes out of it.
yeah. I think that'd be a fun thing to play around with.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe we should consider doing that next week
I was gonna say,
on
yeah.
Let's Talk Characters.
Let's talk. Let's talk characters. Roll in some dice. I think we should do that. If not that, something related to combat roles or intimidation or I
Yeah.
don't know, something like
I mean, I also, I have lots of thoughts about spell casting too. I
yes.
have various sort of like things I want to do. There's another one, just to be clear, there's another one where spell casting ability and the action of spell casting feels very disconnected. They feel very disconnected from each other. Like the like how many spells you get feels very disconnected from how you're doing spells. Like there are all these sorts of things about spell casting that feel disconnected from the action of spell casting, and I don't like that. I want it to feel more tied in some way. Like,
Mm,
how many spells do I get? Well, I look at the spells table and that tells me how many spells I get. Like that is completely arbitrary. It has no connection to how my character is developing or growing or that sort of thing.
sure.
And I don't like that. We can talk about that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting. I have some thoughts on that I'll hold for now. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we actually are right at 8:30 now.
Yeah, we're at an hour.
So
Yeah.
that was good.
Okay. I mean, it was the first episode
It was fun. It went smoothly.
of a
I
thing.
don't think we had any technical issues, so that's a good start.
Oh yeah, that is a nice thing. How nice.
That's it's not a gripe, it's a gratitude.
Yeah, that's a gratitude. Oh, I didn't have any gratitudes. I did do a gratitude about combat, and we didn't really talk about spellcasting, so we're just ending on a gripe about spellcasting. Gratitude, TBC.
Yeah. One
That's
thing I'm going to throw
to be
out
continued. But
about combat. No, I'll save it. I'll save it. We'll talk about it next time.
yeah,
Um,
let's save it. Let's save it. Let's like at our next. Let's at the next episode. We'll like roll some like creative combat sort of attempts.
yeah. I'm going to make a note of this stuff. Okay, cool. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yeah.
All us.
Are you on the Twitch right now? There's nobody
It's just us. And I know based on the overwhelming response, it seems clear that we should keep doing this, so we will.
I mean, I feel like this is a phenomenon.
It's taking off and there's nowhere to go but up, and excited to
it,
see how
it's taking
high
off in T minus.
this can go.
Yes.
But thank you everybody. Let's do our sign off dance, Christian, that we pre-planned. Ready? Here
Oh
we
yeah.
go.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
it's fun to roll characters with all of our
Character
friends. And now it's
friends, you.
time to say good night so we can go
Good
to
night.
bed. Good night. Let's roll characters.
Did you just come up with that
I,
just now?
I did. What do you mean? We scripted that.
Yeah, I guess yeah, you're right. It's like it's very good if you came up with it just now. It's very bad if we'd scripted
Yeah, yeah.
it.
Well, we'll let you all decide whether or not that was scripted or off the top.
So cute.
And until next time,
Yeah.
go play some RPGs.
Oh yeah, go do that thing.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody.